Hello everyone, this is the Parks Academy where we discuss and celebrate all things theme parks related. We focus mainly on Disney parks and resorts in both Anaheim and Orlando. My name is Paige.
My name is Steven.
And today we will be starting our Parks Icons miniseries.
I'm excited about this one. The way we ended up doing this actually was Paige had just finished up. We just finished up Pod Snacks, and Paige had kind of like driven the car on that one and did a fantastic job. And then, thank you. At the end of the last week, we talked about, some of our thoughts and feelings for the show and how we wanted to have it be a little bit more educational, more academic, if you will, hence, the name. So Paige basically threw it at me and said, I think that I want you to do the next one. Have fun. And I was like, what am I going to do? So I kind of just was scratching my head up late last night. I spent probably an hour and a half trying to figure out what I wanted to do before I actually landed on it.
Yeah.
So basically one little idea ended up evolving and turning into a big idea. Mm-hmm. So this is going to be like a 6-part series.
Yep.
I think we can do more, but we will get into that a little later.
Sure.
I just have a couple of other ideas, but that's I think that'll be a different thing altogether.
Yeah, for sure.
Not a whole lot Disney related going on this week. I don't think it's been kind of quiet in the community.
Well, one thing that I am excited about is
jumping right into.
Well, it's because it has to do with Disney news.
Sure.
The live action Little Mermaid meet and greet started this week, and so all the box office numbers will be coming out soon because this is the big weekend for the Little Mermaid live action, holiday weekend. So I think the box office numbers will probably be pretty big once we get through Monday and kind of see where that lands. But I think the meet and greet looks awesome. She looks so cute. She looks exactly
great.
like Halle Bailey. It's so cute.
Yeah.
So I think that's really exciting.
That
Obviously,
is really exciting.
I'm not going this week to meet her, but still something I'm excited about this week is all the new Little Mermaid stuff.
Yeah, it's been everywhere. I feel like I haven't been able to stop seeing online in store. We were in Target today and there was a whole end cap dedicated to it. So it's fun. I don't think we're going to be able to catch it in theaters this year.
No, we'll have to wait until it comes on Disney Plus.
Yeah, we were talking about whether or not we could take our daughter to go see it. She's 18 months old. So 1.5 almost. And we were kind of talking about whether or not we could do that or if she would behave herself for it. And we kind of came to the conclusion that both of our first movies, we were over 2 years old.
Yeah, mine, I was 2 and 1 week. It was 101 Dalmatians.
Yeah, and my first film I saw in theaters was Toy Story 1. And I think it was June or July of 95 it came out. So I was 2 1/4, 2 and change or whatever.
Yep.
So she's a little too young to go see that film. She'll probably still be too young for Elemental.
Yeah, but she's really excited about that one. She keeps seeing previews and things, and she gets really excited because she calls the little girl that is made of fire, she calls hot, and then the guy made of water she calls Wawa. So it's a fun little thing. She gets really excited if she says hot and Wawa, and she's all excited to see that one. So those will be 2 Disney Plus watches for us this year.
Or we can maybe try to do that and catch a really early matinee.
We'll see.
Maybe wait till it's been out for a couple of weeks and then try to get a theater out to ourselves. Cool. Is there anything though besides that you are feeling excited about this week, or was that kind of your thing?
That was my thing I was excited about.
Okay.
Other than that, insert ESPN music here. Here's our sports moment of the week.
Okay.
My good baseball boys had their City Connect release this weekend.
Yeah, it was Baltimore City Connect weekend.
The games didn't go so well that they wore the jerseys, but I love the jerseys despite the controversy and how people are so upset about how they don't like them. But all I'm going to say is, we like to keep it positive around here. I actually really love the jerseys.
I like them too.
I bought one myself. We bought hats from the City Connect series. So there have been some really great City Connect jerseys that have come out in the MLB, some that are just okay, but I really like ours. So I was definitely excited about that this week.
I thought they leaked early online a couple of weeks ago, and a lot of people had things to say, but if people have things to say about everything.
Sure.
I mean, we're a Disney podcast, so above anything else, we know that people have a million negative things to say about Disney, so it has nothing to do with your team, as you know. It just has to do with too much unbridled access to the internet for people to spout their opinions.
Yep.
But yeah, it was cool. I like those too. I think they're really neat. Really kind of play into the rich history of Baltimore. So I'm into it.
Yep.
I was thinking about my thing for this week, and we bought our daughter this book called Disney Blocks. And basically, it's this children's book, and it's this big block book with it kind of goes through each, film, like each marquee film from Disney, from Snow White all the way to Frozen 2. And so on each page there are hidden Mickeys, and she is able to find each hidden Mickey on the page, which is a lot of fun for us. So we've been kind of teaching her a little bit about like what it means to find hidden Mickeys and stuff like that. And she's gotten really good at finding them. So that's been a lot of fun, I think.
Yeah, she's pretty much memorized where most of them are at this point.
Yeah, it's fun to like, that to me is fun because it's just such a, part of the parks that, or it's just like, it's kind of part of like the Disney lovers experience is to look for hidden Mickeys and find them and stuff. So I'm really, really happy about that for her. It's a lot of fun to do that together.
Yeah, it's sweet.
During the day. You ready for this first, what did I call it? Park Icons miniseries.
Yes.
The Parks Academy presents.
There we go.
Okay. So what we're doing today is we are going to be kicking off this series talking about Grizzly Peak in Disney's California Adventure. How I got to this, I honestly do not know. But I'm really excited about this because, we know a lot of the sort of staple icons of each park. Obviously, there's Cinderella's Castle, Sleeping Beauty's Castle, the Spaceship Earth or Epcot Ball, Tower of Terror in Hollywood Studios, Tree of Life, and then, of course, some people I think might say it could be Mickey's Fun Wheel or Pixar Pal Around. But really, when DCA opened up, the Grizzly Peak was kind of the main icon for it. Like, for a long time, the Disneyland Resort logo was the castle, the monorail, and Grizzly Peak for quite a while in the early 2000s. That's what it was.
Okay.
So here's the thing. Disney is really, really extremely good at creating lore around stuff in their parks. Like everything has a name, everything has a story behind it. Like no item goes without its own amount of detail.
I think that's what sets Disney apart mostly from other theme parks, even Universal, even some of the nicer quality ones, is that's what people talk about, is even in every queue, you have this storytelling and every single thing that you see has a story behind it. So I'm excited to see what stories you have behind some of these icons.
Yeah. So Disney's California Adventure opened its doors officially on February 8th, 2001. So it is 22 years old. And a little bit of just brief history about Disney's California Adventure. It was actually sort of the successor to the failed idea of Westcott, which was supposed to happen in California.
Okay.
Westcott was planned out almost entirely, but it failed because of a very mixed reception to Euro Disneyland, which was just kind of getting, the PR was really bad for it out there in Europe, and it was just really becoming kind of a failed experiment. And so they basically trashed Westcott, and were trying to put together some kind of an idea of like what they could do for a new park. And so because we're not doing like a whole history on DCA, I'll just say California Adventure is what they came up with.
Okay.
And so in 2001, for those of you who remember, California Adventure was treated very much like a very cheesy California postcard.
Mm-hmm.
And what's weird about that is, as we know, Disney World is for national tourism. They both are They both, encourage and bring in tourists from all over the world, but Disneyland is more localized.
Right.
And so what was really strange about it was that they were basically pitching come see all of California to Californians or to West Coasters.
Yeah.
And so you walked in and was like this really terrible, sun statue behind a Golden Gate Bridge when you walked through. And it was just, it was as cheesy comes.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of like timeline 1 of California Adventure. But all throughout that, they still had the Grizzly Peak. Okay. That was when they first had the commercial. First time I ever saw a commercial for Disney's California Adventure. It was in front of the VHS of Toy Story 2.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
So that was the first time I ever saw a commercial for it. And it's very cheesy, terrible animation, just this really kind of weird little video. But the ending of it is the bear roaring, right? Mm-hmm. So, and it's like, saying coming soon to Disneyland Resort, opening, winter 2001.
You know what's weird is I don't remember any advertisements for DCA at all. Even though, like, I also had the Toy Story 2 VHS, and it's not like we fast forwarded through all the beginning. I wonder if because it seemed like a place I would never be able to go to, if it just never sank in with me. Isn't that weird?
That is weird. Yeah.
Because when there was stuff that was played on Disney Channel as previews and commercials for new rides, new attractions, new shows, it's like if it was not in Walt Disney World, it never sunk in. Isn't that weird?
That makes sense. What's funny about it to me is that I remember a lot of things about like seeing announcements and stuff for Disney World because of like Disney Channel stuff.
Right.
So like I remember seeing things about, for instance, Animal Kingdom opening up in what was it, 2000? Earth Day in 98. I remember seeing that. I remember seeing, stuff for instance, Expedition Everest really sticks in my mind.
I remember those ads pretty well.
Yeah.
But all of that clicked with me and resonated with me because I knew that my family would be going to do that, soon at some point. When we were little, we used to go to Disney. If it wasn't every year, it was at least every other year because we would go down to Florida for the Orioles spring training every year for my mom's work. So it's just weird to me that I guess because it was attached to like, oh, my family's going to be able to do this on vacation. I wonder if that's why those memories sink in more than the ones in Disneyland in DCA just didn't sink in because I was like, oh, that might as well be Tokyo Disney. Like it doesn't.
I get that. You probably never thought you were going to go, right?
Right. I never thought that I'd be able to even go. California seemed as far as like Tokyo Disney, even though it's way closer. It seemed like I had an equal chance to go there.
I'm going to play you the promo really quick and we should be able to hear it on the.
Okay.
From the dream makers at Disney. An exciting new theme park is coming to Southern California. Located right next door to Disneyland Park, celebrating all the fun and adventure of California. Introducing Disney's California Adventure, a brand new Disney park. Opening February 2001.
Yeah, that like doesn't even, like nothing in my nostalgia even perked up like, oh my gosh, yes, I do remember that. But what I do think is cool is, like you had mentioned, there was no like Mickey's Fun Wheel.
All you see is...
It's just like, look at this bear that's going to be the new symbol for DCA.
Right. And the logo at the time was literally just Disney's California Adventure Park. So at some point they actually dropped park.
Right.
And so, so basically, like I had said, it was very California tourism, and stuff like that. So I'm just gonna kind of go back to the grizzly bear for a quick second. So obviously it's one of the most notable icons. And by the way, I don't know if they actually did drop park. I just don't feel like
in 2010
they did drop.
I just looked it up.
Okay, great.
It says previously known as Disney's California Adventure Park from 2001 to 2010, but now it just says Disney California Adventure Park, commonly referred to as California Adventure or by its acronym DCA.
Yeah. Okay, great. That's what I thought. I just wanted to double check. So anyway, yeah, Grizzly Peak is 110 feet tall. It's actually the second smallest icon on our list.
Mm-hmm.
The first being Sleeping Beauty's castle.
Shocker.
Yeah. And so many guests obviously are going to be familiar with Grizzly River Run, the ride, the white water rafting adventure at the mountain's base. But what we're going to do is I'm just basically going to kind of talk to you a little bit about and share with you the magic behind the peak itself. The history of Grizzly Peak has a really interesting mix of lore and also Disney imagination.
Okay.
So, according to legend, long ago, a coyote, Aha-e, he met a grizzly bear named Oo-soo-ma-te on top of a mountain. Because the grizzly was such a powerful creature, the coyote asked him to watch over and protect the land. One day, people came up the mountain and tried to chase the grizzly bear, tried to chase him down.
Mm-hmm.
Despite their charge, the bear held his ground. When the coyote saw that the bear was alone against the surrounding people, you ready for this? He turned him into stone so he could never be driven away.
The coyote turned the bear to stone.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the coyote sounds kind of like a jerk.
Yeah, the coyote. What was his? I guess, like, what was his motivation for that?
He wanted the bear to just watch over the land.
Like, forever and ever.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what's interesting is, like, one of the things, too, that I find kind of fascinating is in my research, I found that some people, and I've heard this before, have mistaken it, even though it's called Grizzly Peak. Some people have mistaken it for a coyote howling or like a wolf howling at the moon.
Oh, really?
Because bears don't typically,
I can kind of
have their head cocked back like that.
Yeah.
And so what it makes me think is mid stone turning, perhaps the bear was like screaming in anguish or begging him not to, and then he got frozen in time.
Interesting.
So that's, that's like the lore of the mountain, but there's like there's way more to it than that.
Sure.
So, according to Walt Disney Imagineering, this is all true. Like, it's all not true, but it's not real. But it's true lore.
True lore. Got it.
Okay, so no one's really sure exactly when the first people arrived at Grizzly Peak. However, petroglyphs and rock paintings throughout the area suggest that people believe that all living creatures were kin to humankind. So basically it was saying, it didn't matter who you were, animal, man, everyone kind of walked together as one. And they took each other as lessons and offered guidance on their journeys. And basically, the grizzly bear was like the most esteemed animal out of all the ones that were kind of around the area at the time.
Okay.
And so they were also saying, that a lot of people believe that the territory around Grizzly Peak actually sort of reflects the bear's personality. So, the mighty granite peaks, the tall, proud trees, and the roaring waterfalls all kind of like sort of, are an expression of who the bear is.
Right. It's like mirroring the qualities of a grizzly, right?
Yeah. So it gets even crazier because I have actually facts and figures and numbers.
Facts and
for
figures
lore.
and numbers. Okay.
So when the bear was frozen into the mountains, thousands of years later, Jacob Probst, who was a German immigrant,
not
Jeff Probst,
related to our good boy Jeff.
He might be, but I don't think so.
Okay.
He accidentally discovered gold by throwing his hat into the river and then stepping on it.
Okay.
And when he put his hat back on his head, which I guess is common, like if you've been hiking, sometimes you'll take your hat and like put it into the water and put it back on your head for cool and relief. So he puts it back on his head and he discovers a 1 pound gold nugget that was inside of his hat.
Okay.
And
this is all grizzly magic.
This is all like early Northern California prospecting.
Got it.
Gold mining kind of stuff.
Yep.
So the gold nugget is worth in today's money, it'd be $27,000.
Okay.
And so he staked his claim and he continued sort of panning for gold, but he thought it'd be more lucrative to sell to the Eureka Gold and Timber Company, where they took over and they took over that land. He sold it for millions of dollars. They took over the land that's now known as Grizzly Peak. And
Okay.
they even opened a general store, aka the Russian River, Rushin, the Russian River Outfitters, which is the
Clever.
gift shop.
Yes, clever.
But around there, you can see like lore and stuff about how it was the general store,
Interesting.
and how the like, for instance, the Eureka Gold and Timber Company is actually written on the side of a lot of the buildings and stuff around the area.
Okay, very cool.
So, here's what happened. Okay, in the 1950s, the mine was basically tapped dry, and there was like no more gold in it.
Mm-hmm.
So the land was sold to the U.S. government to be turned into the Grizzly Peak Recreation Area, which is, you know, what it's known as today.
Mm-hmm.
And basically it's now a lush green wonder for outdoor enthusiasts. What's interesting though is that the first time you ever went to Disney's California Adventure was in 2016.
Yep.
So from 2001 to 2012, the lore continues. Okay. That's kind of like the big like bulk of it all, which is kind of crazy enough that there's all that information about it.
Sure.
But
like somebody sat down and created an entire backstory.
Yeah. For everything.
Yes.
It's crazy. So from 2001 to 2012, that entire area, which is very peaceful and serene, and for those of you who have, you know, grown up going to Disneyland, you will know this. It used to be like an extreme sports area.
Really?
Yeah. So it was basically like Grizzly Peaks, sponsored by X Games, essentially, because X Games were really big at that time in the early 2000s.
Yep.
And so the national park, they started offering raft tours to discover the beauty of the Grizzly Peak area. And before they started doing that, though, it was actually owned by someone named, this is like crazy to me. It was owned by someone named Bumper McFerrin.
Okay.
And basically Grizzly Peaks was kind of like this 1990s vibe.
Uh-huh.
And when you were going through the line of the River Run,
Mm-hmm.
right? It was actually in the line, there was like extreme sports memorabilia everywhere. And so what they were basically, what the lore continues to say is, you know, after the US government bought it and they were trying to turn it into this nice, peaceful area, it was purchased. So Bumper McFerrin purchased the old mining factory and he used it as his base of operations for his whitewater rafting experiences. And as you were going up as you were so when you get on the ride, you essentially have to go on like one of those little turning, you've been on like whitewater rides kind of before, right? We have to get on like the turning, rotating platform, and then you have to hop on your thing.
Yep.
So when he's reading his safety instruction videos, he's very much like a total bro, you know, where he's saying things like, you know, I'm trying to think of what voice I could even do for it, but it'd be kind of like,
I just envision it like if Steve Irwin had been American.
No, it's not like that. Oh, Steve Irwin.
Yeah.
I was thinking Steve Urkel.
No.
I was like, I don't think it's anything like Steve Urkel.
No, like Steve Irwin, but American. Like
no,
just like
hey,
so
bro,
stoked.
We're gonna jump on this whitewater raft, and we're gonna.
You did a Steve Irwin
hang
accent.
Hang on to your hats, keep your kids safe, and have a rockin' rad time, or something like that.
Yes, if Steve Irwin had been American, that's exactly what that was.
And that like really fit in with the whole like aesthetic that they were going with. So, for instance, Grizzly Peak Airfield, which is where Soarin' is, that used to be called Condor Flats, and it was basically like a runway. So there was like no trees around it, nothing like that. There was a big jet engine that like spewed out water every so often. There was a plane coming out of one of the buildings next to Soarin'.
Okay.
It was like this big kind of weird and almost like kind of ugly-ish sort of experience.
Got it.
There was still like the nature trail and stuff like that, but it was just a different vibe. It was like an X Games extreme sports 90s vibe.
Okay, and so Grizzly River Run was an opening day ride for DCA because it was like that early 2001 X Games through, what did you say, 2012 or something?
Yeah, 2012 was when it shifted gears.
Okay.
So, so in 2012, everything completely changed. It went from being this kind of thrown together idea of an extreme sports area to almost like a California national park.
Okay. Like Northern California, though, right? Because we're talking like redwoods and isn't that what that area is supposed to be?
Yes and no. Grizzly River, so the Grizzly Peak was actually inspired by the mountains in Yosemite National Park. And Yosemite is kind of like southeast California. And what's interesting about it actually is that while it says that it was, inspired by Half Dome and El Capitan and things like that, there actually is a Grizzly Peak in Yosemite. And I think that there is a little bit of inspiration that's gleaned from that. But there's also, I found a Grizzly Peak in the Berkeley Hills, right overlooking San Francisco.
Okay.
But that's like flat. It's just basically like a big old hill that you can go up. The real Grizzly Peak is actually 6,200 feet in elevation, and it's a part of the Sierra Nevada Parent Range. It is the real Grizzly Peak in Yosemite. It's predominantly on the southwest wall below Half Dome, and you can see it if you hike up, for instance, Vernal Falls or Nevada Falls from the northeastern glacier point. The top is not accessible by any trail, but it can be climbed by rock climbers.
Interesting.
So, a couple of fun facts. First, do you have any input from any of this?
Well, when I was, I'm just following along and thinking through things, I thought I had seen something about how it was inspired by like the redwoods and the Sacramento River. So that's what was having me think of like, I think of the Grizzly Peak area as more Northern California vibes because you have some of the other aspects of like
totally
the boardwalk area and the Pixar place, like all of that stuff makes me think of more like either Santa Cruz or Southern California or something. So when I think of Grizzly Peak, I think of that type of national parks in California being more of Northern California, which is why I like that area so much because I like that so much more than I like the beach and I like the boardwalks and stuff. So yeah, this is awesome.
So, a couple of fun facts about Grizzly River Run and the peak. Grizzly Peak is actually 110 feet tall, and it was constructed by Intamin Amusement Rides International.
Okay.
So they are some of the big purveyors of roller coasters and water rides. And in fact, they've actually done both Cali River Rapids and Grizzly River Run.
Interesting.
So these guys, Intamin, are the company that constructed it. What's interesting, however, is with Grizzly River Run, when you go down the hill, right, when you're kind of doing I think it's a 21-foot drop that you go down, Disney incorporated, and they were the first ones to do it, they incorporated somewhat of a pulley system to where when you begin to go down, the ride will actually spin the raft. So then that way that's why you end up going down and spinning.
Oh.
So there's actually a mechanism that does that. So that's kind of a cool thing about the ride. And then the other thing about the ride specifically is when you go through the tunnels, the lore says that you can still hear oo-soo-ma-te howling or growling or whatever.
Interesting.
But it's actually piped in audio
Right.
through it.
Yes.
And the other thing is in the first tunnel that you go through, this is kind of a fun fact, but the first tunnel that you go through, if you look up in the ceiling, there's a hidden Mickey up there with from the hieroglyphs or petroglyphs.
Yeah.
However, because you're going from broad daylight into a dark cave, oftentimes people's eyes get dilated and they just can't see in the dark.
They don't adjust that quickly.
So if you want to see it, legend has it.
Close
if you want to
your
see
eyes.
it, that or go in the afternoon or the evening or something like that so you can see it better.
Yeah, but if you close your eyes leading into the first tunnel and then open them, your eyes will have been adjusted to the dark already and you should be able to see it.
That's correct, yeah.
Yep.
But it's such a beautiful area that I wouldn't really recommend.
My eyes would be closed the whole entire ride, so.
It's fun. I've been on it a handful of times. It's very fun.
I think I might have done Cali River Rapids once when I was a kid. Not a fan of rapids over here. Not a fan. Not a fan of water rides in general, but I definitely do not want to get soaked by like some random waterfall that I so happen to rotate under.
You basically lose the lottery on.
Is disgusting. I hate that.
I would love to go on it again soon.
It's not my jam.
Yeah. Right. So a couple of things about the surrounding area of Grizzly Peak. For a while, the Grizzly Peak recreation area used to be for smoking. So there was an entire area kind of in there that people just went and smoked.
It seems super opposite of the point of a national park area.
Right. But smoking was officially pushed out and out of Disney in, I think, like late 2019, around the time that Galaxy's Edge opened, because this is sort of a side trail, but one of the few places that guests could smoke in Disneyland and continue to do so was if you were going past Critter Country, where you have Splash Mountain, Hungry Bear Cafe, and you go kind of all around the back. That used to kind of just lead to, like, near Fantasyland. It would just kind of like loop you all the way around there.
Right.
But when Galaxy's Edge opened up, it was basically a thoroughfare into the Resistance base. So that was kind of one of the few smoking areas left where people could go. And Disney ended up, after a while, just basically completely ridding the parks of all smoking. And so while that area used to be for smokers, now it's a really, really nice area with seating, and it's a thoroughfare, and there's bridge lookouts and all kinds of things that you can kind of do to sort of sit in the shade underneath all the trees and just enjoy yourself.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that spot.
It's really nice. The other thing I think that is really, really nice about it too is if you actually go through the Grizzly Peak path behind the ride, you can actually follow a trail and just kind of like see parts of the ride. You can see something called the steam donkey, which is a real thing. It was a way to kind of pull lumber back in the old mining days. And there's like all these little sort of like Easter eggs you can see if you basically just follow along the path of the peak, sort of around the base of it and stuff. And what's interesting about that is that's kind of, to me anyway, that reminds me a lot of what you would get in like Tree of Life in Animal Kingdom.
Yes.
Where there's all these little secret pathways and little areas that you can kind of sort of disappear.
Yes, where they are much quieter.
Yeah. So, I'm going to give you a couple of fun factoids about the Grizzly Peak area.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. So the first one is, when you are, I believe it's somewhere near, and I could be wrong, but I believe that this specifically is somewhere near Soren. But there is a U.S. Agriculture Department sign about warning against forest fires.
I remember that, yes.
Do you remember who was on it?
It's not Smokey the Bear?
It's not Smokey the Bear.
Who's on the sign? I don't remember.
So Smokey the Bear was adopted by the as like the big mascot for not starting forest fires in 1944.
Okay.
But before that, the U.S. Agriculture Department adopted Bambi as their first mascot.
Really?
Yes. So there is a sign about preventing forest fires with Bambi, Thumper, and Flower.
Aww.
And it has Walt Disney's little signature on it. It says like Walt Disney, Incorporated or Studios or something like that.
How cute.
And it's basically a replicant of one of the original, forest fire prevention signs that they had.
That's very cute.
Bambi.
Can I tell a quick side story about Bambi?
Please, by all means.
That made me laugh last week. So my mom and I went to the movies on Mother's Day, and we went to see Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, which is a great movie for like preteen girls and their moms, but also just like women of any age to see. And during the trailers at the beginning of the movie, they're showing all of these previews for upcoming, animated movies and kids movies and cartoons and all these things. And the theater was just full of older ladies. And my mom and I were there sitting behind a group of older women. And one of the older ladies, after it was like we saw the Elemental preview and then that new Kraken movie trailer. And after that one of the older ladies in front of us goes, "All we had in my day was Bambi." Like, she was so upset that Bambi was the only thing she had as a child, and that all of these modern movies, that there's like so many options for kids to watch. And I was just like, what in the world? My mom and I could not stop laughing. So I was like, there were so many Walt Disney animated films. How old is this lady?
So Bambi came out in 1942.
Yeah.
So what would that make her? Like, 81? Did she look like she was in her 80s?
Well, she was sitting in front of me in a dark movie theater, so I'm not sure. But it's
Got
just
it.
like, how could that have been the only movie you had as a child? Like, there were plenty of other Disney movies that came out back then.
And also, that wasn't even Walt's first picture.
Right,
so,
that's what I'm saying.
Settle down.
Right, that's what I'm saying. My mom and I were just laughing hysterically because she clearly couldn't hear herself. So she was old enough that she could remember Bambi at least, but
young enough that she hasn't learned not to complain.
Yes, correct. So I just thought that was a fun little side story. When I think about Bambi now, I will forever think of that lady complaining that's all she had when she was growing up.
I know.
Even though there was a plethora of other Disney films.
Hey, it was hard growing up in the 40s, I guess.
Well, yes, it was. I'm sure.
Post-Great Depression,
funny. It was just a funny thing.
Yeah, I get it.
So yes, cute. Bambi and Flower and Thumper on the little sign. How sweet. I
did have one other thing that I wanted to mention about the ride that I completely forgot. But I told you we're going to go all the way back to my friend Bumper McFerrin, our 1990s dude bro who did the safety video.
Our X-Games friend.
Correct. When he was fired by Disney for, narrating the ride and doing what he was doing, he was replaced by, you're going to want to look this up because you're going to know him when you see him, I'm pretty sure. His narration was replaced by J. Audubon Woodlore. Does that name mean anything to you? J. Audubon Woodlore.
Oh, yeah.
So he is a park ranger, and he has been in several little shorts. One of the ones that he's one of the ones that he's most known for is anytime that he is specifically with Humphrey the Bear. And he was actually, I believe he was the park ranger in Donald Duck's Wide Open Spaces from 1947. So he does the voice for that. And also, fun fact, he was the voice of Mr. Shmee in Peter Pan. So he now...
was also in Ralph Breaks the Internet most recently.
As himself.
Yeah, as Ranger Woodlore.
There you go. That's cool.
Yeah.
That
so,
movie
like,
was...
It made me remember like a modern version of him too. And I was like, why do I recognize this guy but with a different animation also? But I also recognize him from some of his interactions with like Donald Duck.
Yeah.
He's been in several of those cartoons, I think.
He, first of all, I don't remember him from Ralph Breaks the Internet because that movie was just a catastrophe of visuals.
Don't remember anything about that movie, but I do recognize that he was in it with like better animation.
That's crazy that's what you remember him from. But anyway, so he's the narrator now who does the safety spiel. It's so much better, so much more relaxing, and a lot less out of place.
Fun fact. He also is a mascot for Walt Disney World's Disney's Wilderness Lodge Hotel.
Excellent.
So he appears in some of their hotel merch as well. Maybe we saw him when we went last trip.
It's possible. He's a cute little guy, isn't he?
He's so fun.
He's just kind of short.
What a fun little
stubby
thing.
And
but that makes perfect sense that they would use him in those safety videos about like telling people to keep the forest clean and whatnot.
Yeah, he's a good little fella. He's a fun one. So anyway, he's there and doing his thing, and we're thankful for him. The final thing that I wanted to mention was like a little fact about the area. And we can still talk about it if you want, because I think there's other things that are fun to talk about. But there is, the little yellow old school like 1950s car with a canoe on top of it.
Yes.
So if you were to look at the license plate reads Red 110. Do you have any idea what that could mean?
Red 110.
And remember, like, Disney's all about Easter eggs and
Mhm.
dates and homages and stuff like
Sure.
that. If you don't know, it's fine. It's not the easiest one to know.
Is it like a Pantone color?
No, it's not.
Okay.
So
well, that was a good guess.
That was a good guess. So red 110 is actually for Walt Disney's nephew, Roy Edison Disney, who was born on January 10th.
Ah,
Fun little
very
fun little
sweet.
fact there.
How sweet.
A little bit of like solemn, sad news. So Grizzly Peak is obviously in honor of the California grizzly bear.
Mhm.
However, California grizzly bear went extinct in 1920.
Extinct in 1920?
Extinct in California in 1920.
Holy Toledo.
Or the 1920s. But so basically, it's been 100 years since California's had a grizzly bear.
Wow.
And what's fascinating to me about that is, you know, a lot of times we think about like modern day extinction of animals and stuff from pollution or poachers or whatever, you know, or just like climate change or whatever's, you know, happening. But this was over 100 years ago when things, I mean, obviously the gold rush had happened, 70 years prior to that, plus, you know, 70 plus years prior to that. But still, I mean, that is a very, very crazy. I knew that it was extinct in California, but I didn't know that it had been gone for like over 100 years.
Yeah, that's so sad.
Unbelievable, right?
Yeah, the last known grizzlies were killed in the Sierra foothills east of Fresno in the early 1920s. So grizzly bears themselves are not extinct, though. There are still plenty of them in Alaska and Canada. There's some in Montana. But California, which, like you said, like prominently displays the grizzly bear on their flag. What a sad, sad thing. We saw a grizzly bear at a zoo. What zoo was that? Was that in San Francisco?
That was at the San Francisco Zoo.
And so it was just one blessed grizzly bear by himself, and it was the saddest thing I've ever seen in my life because he's probably just one of the only ones in California.
I know. I don't think I should get on a tangent about zoos.
This is not the time or place
to
rant about zoos.
So I'm not going to.
We love animals. That's all we're going to say.
We love animals. We don't prefer zoos. Even though some of the people are doing good work and they're really care about the animals.
Some zoos are like rehabilitation centers for animals, better than others, and it's great.
Some are awful.
That's all we're going to say.
When you go on Grizzly River Rapids, you obviously I told you about Russian River Outfitters.
Correct. RUSHIN.
Correct. And so why we're kind of the joke behind that, for those of you who may not know, is a Russian River is actually it's like an agricultural area in Northern California, where a lot of wine grows. There's obviously the Russian River, but it's spelled like the country. And so it's just funny that they did a little pun on that. But you can, if you do not want to get soaked on this ride, you can buy ponchos in there, and they do have free lockers where you can like lock up your stuff so you don't get it too wet.
Do they have a little thing? Now, I don't remember what theme park I'm remembering this from. Like a center console of sorts.
Where you can like hold on to it?
Where you place your items inside of the center console so they don't get wet.
No, I don't think so.
That's not a Disneyland thing, which would make sense.
It's not.
What? Is it Kali River Rapids?
So on Grizzly River Run, the way that the ride vehicles look is they do have like a little netting that you can put your stuff in, but for the most part, it's almost like a big steering wheel in the middle that you just grab onto. But yeah, there's no there's no like there's nothing on the ride that you can like store your stuff in. I would like to pivot really quickly to the 30-foot tall grizzly bear that stands outside of the ride. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Like outside of, before you get in the queue line?
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember that specifically because I didn't ride the ride.
So it's this, you need to look him up because he's this majestic, glorious 30-foot grizzly bear. And he's wearing a life vest, safety first, a little helmet. He has a little raft. He's holding a lantern, and he has a big oar. Tell me when you see this guy, because he is a sight to behold.
Oh my gosh, he's so cute.
Isn't he great?
This picture that I'm seeing, they're like change out his outfits.
Yes.
So for Christmas, they give him a cute little Christmas sweater,
mm-hmm.
and he's holding his little lantern still. And then for Halloween, they give him a little Mickey pumpkin candy basket.
That is exactly right.
That is so cute.
The interesting thing about him, though, is he doesn't have a name.
Really?
So, like...
no identity. All this lore for the whole thing.
So you have all this crap about, about, Jacob Probst, the German immigrant who came in and did his thing. And then you've got friggin' Bumper McFerrin, but we don't have a name for this big grizzly bear. So I ask you, if you were to name him, what do you think would be a good name for this fella?
Ted.
Ted?
He looks like a Ted, doesn't he? As
Kind
soon as you
of.
asked me what his name was, I just looked at him and
just
his
said
little
Ted?
toofies were sticking out. And I was like, that is most definitely a Ted.
His teeths?
Like, his name is Theodore, but he goes by Ted.
Yeah, I was thinking it's going to be a little bit more like on the nose, like Grizz or something.
Yeah, but I think Theodore just came to me because when I think about national parks, I think about Teddy Roosevelt. And so I think that is kind of on the nose. Because he's in this national parks area and Teddy Roosevelt and he's a bear, so
that makes sense.
Teddy bear, yeah.
I love
that's
this
pretty
guy.
on the nose.
It is. I love this guy. I have to take a picture of him every time I see him. He's just absolutely fantastic. One of the final things that I have to say about this whole area one of the things that I found to be extremely interesting is, so obviously we know that Disney's California Adventure is 22 years old. And when it first started, they had like these little saplings of trees that they planted, like redwoods and stuff that they basically planted all around the area. And so if you look up like, before and after pictures of like the trees around Grizzly Peak, for 22 years ago, it was extremely visible. So you would it was just towering over everything. And now, because the trees have had 2 decades to grow, it almost looks like the bear is drowning in redwood trees.
Yeah, it's like he doesn't stick out as much anymore.
So
but it's beautiful. It's still beautiful.
And that's the same thing with Disney's Grand Californian Hotel. Is there's like trees all around it that have just grown up and really kind of taken over. So one of the things that I find compelling about this area, and I don't think any other area in Disney really lets this happen, maybe Animal Kingdom a little bit, but it's not really manicured. It's just sort of like let the trees do their thing and let it act like its very own national park.
Right. Yeah. Which I love about Animal Kingdom. I love that it's just sort of seems like it's letting nature do its thing.
Mm-hmm. Right. So those are my thoughts and on all the information that I have about the Disney's California Adventure icon, Grizzly Peak.
I love it. I learned a lot. I really did learn a lot.
Well, it's interesting to me because there's just like so much weird stuff that comes with it.
Yeah.
That most of which I would never even...
Right, like little things I never even would have thought had a backstory.
Right, exactly.
For sure. I am wondering, now that I've been looking at all these pictures of Grizzly Peak and all these things, I'm wondering, because they've started the work on San Francisco, right?
Yes.
I wonder what sort of the skyline, if you will, of DCA is going to look like. How tall is the San Francisco Bridge going to be? Is it going to be lower than Grizzly Peak? Is Grizzly Peak still going to stick out like it does?
I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be that big at all.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
I think it's going to be pretty modest, frankly, because they used to have the Golden Gate Bridge.
Sure.
At the entrance of California Adventure on the opening, when it was like the postcard feel before it turned into like early Buena Vista Street from getting off the train from Kansas City.
Right.
But I don't think that San Francisco is going to be all that cumbersome to the park skyline.
Because what I'm picturing, I mean, I'm seeing some like artist renderings here of what it's supposed to look like. But that bridge right now isn't that tall, right?
No, because it basically just took over the earthquake bridge.
Right.
So, I mean, it's big-ish, but I don't think.
Yeah, I'm just, small little details, but I'm just interested to see if you're looking at sort of the overall feel, if you're standing in the center of DCA and you've got, you're standing right by the Little Mermaid ride and you're looking around, what are you going to be able to see?
Yeah, I'm sure that there's going to be some vloggers that'll tell us.
I'm sure there will be.
Without us even asking them to.
Yeah, they'll let us know. They'll show us all the details.
And I'm probably going to not watch because I've stopped watching Disney vloggers.
That's okay. They're doing their thing. We're doing ours.
Don't even worry about it. I don't even trip, dog.
But yeah, I'm excited to see. I mean, I've talked about it before. DCA is my favorite of the Disneyland Resort the area.
That's fair. That's totally fair.
I love Disneyland. I think it's awesome. I think it's great. I don't have the same nostalgia I have because I didn't go there growing up as a kid. There is something special about, Walt's first park, but I think DCA has so much to offer. And now that I'm an adult and I've only been to Disneyland as an adult, I think I just resonated more with DCA.
DCA is kind of like going to Epcot.
Right, exactly.
Where it's like there are stuff for the kids, but it's sort of more of like a walk around, take your time.
Correct.
No rush sort of environment.
Yes.
And when you do go to the Grizzly Peak recreation area, it really, at that point, seriously turns into like this super chill, relaxed environment.
It's very relaxing.
There's only three things to do. You have like the nature trail.
Yes.
You have the rapids, and you have Soarin'.
And I don't ride the river rapids ride. All of the alliteration.
You know what? There's a great place to get churros near there. So all the way back to our churro episode, there's a really good place to get churros.
I remember going in that shop back there near Soarin'. Like the little hangar.
Yeah, that's sort of that's in the same area, but
all of that is
the
like
little
back
hangar
by
area.
Yeah, all of that is back by Grizzly Peak, and I remember that little shop is really nice.
I think that's for me. That area is one of those like I want to go there toward the end of the day. I don't really want to start there. I'd rather start toward like the awful Hollywood area that really needs a facelift. Although I haven't seen Avengers Campus, so it might be better over there.
Right.
And then Pixar Pier, and then when it's like I need a break, I like to go over to.
Well, we ended in Grizzly Peak last time we were there.
We did. It's so relaxing.
It is relaxing.
What I really want to do is stay in the hotel and get
Get to just walk back.
Yeah, so
through the park into your hotel after the end of the day.
I love the lobby. I love that hotel, but I haven't stayed there.
It's beautiful.
It is beautiful. All right, well, I think that's pretty much going to wrap it up for us. Guys, thank you so much for listening, and we're really excited to continue on with this mini-series of park icons. I don't really know who's going to do what, but I can guarantee you Paige is going to do Tree of Life. We're really excited about this, and we've had a lot of fun sort of planning and putting it together. Thank you so much to our sponsor, Deep Cut, for your support of the show. Deep Cut, as you know, are makers of record accessories and stands and displays. We love these guys. They're incredible, and you can get 10% off your first order using the code TPA10. That's the code. You can also find us on Instagram at the Parks Academy. You can find us online at theparksacademypod.com. And, of course, we would really appreciate it if you would rate and review the show on Apple Podcast. Your kind words go a long way and do mean a lot. And finally, if you wanted to support the show and get access to other content, you can jump on our Patreon and support us that way. So thanks again so much, everyone. We really cannot express to you our appreciation for listening and all the downloads and support. And, start in Canada, start in Adventureland.